You're still not married. My beautiful wife is an executive secretary who has global experience. Not even out of high school. You wouldn't even get a chance to meet someone like her. After 30 years, my middle school classmate, now referred to as Mike, ridiculed me upon our reunion. He's probably still mentally stuck in the time when we graduated from middle school. Just then, I heard the soft honk of a car horn and turned my gaze towards the road. Parked there were 10 luxury cars, from which a line of well-built young employees began to emerge. Dressed in dark suits, the sight of these young men was quite impressive. These men with imposing figures built through physical labor, which were evident beneath their suits, all greeted me together. Mike, who had been watching, staggered back in fear before staring at me in astonishment. My name is James Carter. I'm 45 years old this year. I work for a construction company and live a happy life with my beloved wife and adorable daughter. Hearing just this, one might assume I've had a peaceful and gentle life. But in reality, it's been anything but peaceful, filled with poverty and frustration. I was raised in a terribly poor family. Soon after I was born, my father fell seriously ill and was hospitalized. Despite desperate treatments, he passed away just a year later. Left behind were my young mother, barely in her 20s, me at the tender age of 3, and the debt incurred from my father's medical bills. My mother had to raise me single-handedly, working from dawn till dusk every day. As a result, I never had the toys or games that other kids my age took for granted. We barely made ends meet by eating bread given to us by the bakery where my mother worked that could not serve it. When I started elementary school and began receiving school lunch, I was so amazed by the taste. Without those meals, I would have likely remained painfully thin without proper growth. It's hard to imagine in a country as wealthy and advanced as the United States that there are children living like I did. I didn't want to be at home where my mother didn't come home until late at night, and I spend more time outside the house. Even when I tried to play with others, I didn't have the latest games or anything really. Moreover, my worn and ragged clothes made me an outcast among my peers. That limited what I could do in parks and playgrounds, so I naturally holed myself up in the library to read books. Learning about worlds unknown to me was exhilarating, and my curiosity only grew, naturally drawing me to various subjects. Before I knew it, my grades improved significantly, and I began to earn the respect of my classmates. In middle school, I continued to excel academically, leading to roles like class rep and student body president, making for a fulfilling student life. However, this streak of success ended in the spring of my second year of middle school. A parent-teacher conference was held to determine a course of study at the high school, and I was present, but both my mother and my school counselor, Mr. Thompson, looked somber. With my academic ability back then, I could have easily gone on to the most advanced course at the top high school in the state. But even if we don't have to pay tuition, it costs a lot of money to go on to higher education. Mr. Thompson, isn't there any way? It's heartbreaking to think that his potential could be wasted just because we're poor, my mother said. No, it's okay, Mom. I've always wanted to start working as soon as possible, I lied. The truth was, I wanted to attend high school like my classmates. Go to college and gain a broad range of knowledge and experiences to contribute meaningfully to the world. But I also wanted to provide a more comfortable life for my mother, who had done so much for me. Considering this, I lied about my intentions to work immediately after middle school. However, my insistence didn't matter. My mother, nearly in tears, desperately wanted me to continue my education. Seeing my mother's determination for my future, Mr. Thompson presented a brochure. This local company, called the Anderson Group, actively accepts employees who have graduated from middle school. The company has a program that allows them to work while taking correspondence courses, so you could still get your high school diploma depending on your effort, James, he explained. Hearing Mr. Thompson's words, my mother pondered for a while. The construction industry seems physically and mentally demanding. Even with such a program, is it really possible to find time to study? She questioned. Indeed, it would require far more perseverance and effort than the average high school student. But I believe James has what it takes to succeed, Mr. Thompson reassured her. As my mother and Mr. Thompson discussed, I became fully convinced to work for this company after reading the brochure. It seemed like a place where both my desire to work and my mother's wish for me to study could be fulfilled. Above all, I was moved by the passionate corporate philosophy of the company's president, Mr. Anderson, which was detailed in the brochure. The company aimed to pursue happiness for all employees, both in their work and personal lives, while contributing to the advancement of the community and youth. Those words filled me with endless possibilities and enthusiasm, making me eager to join their ranks. Thanks to Mr. Thompson's support, I secured a job at Anderson Group. While all my classmates were heading to high school, I started feeling like an outsider at school. There was one person who seemed quite pleased with my situation. It was Mike, who had been my rival since elementary school. Mike came from a wealthy family and had been attending prestigious tutoring centers since he was young. Despite that, I often outperformed him in grades during our elementary school years, which apparently infuriated his mother. She unilaterally declared me his rival and constantly pushed him not to lose to me. However, my grades remained superior to Mike's throughout middle school, and I never relinquished the top spot in our class. At that time, I was still planning to pursue further education and had chosen the advanced course at one of the most competitive high schools in the state as my aspiration. While my mock test results were comfortably within the passing range, Mike's result was on the fence with a 50% chance of admission. After sneakily peeking at my results, a frustrated Mike bitterly remarked, "You can afford to go to the high school for 4 years, so how can you?" I couldn't muster a response to Mike's words. Yet, despite the bitterness and humiliation, I resolved to keep this incident to myself, not wanting to sadden my mother with it. From that moment, I began to seriously consider employment over further education. As everyone around me looked forward to high school, I resigned myself to the fact that such a future wasn't meant for me. When the placement period arrived, I took a chance and applied to an advanced course at a prestigious high school, securing the top score among applicants. After that, I changed my mind from higher education to finding a job. Thus, upon graduating middle school, I joined Anderson Group. Meanwhile, Mike seemed to have passed the course of his choice. But I was so busy adjusting to the completely new world of the construction industry that I didn't have time to think about anything else. Nowadays, female supervisors exist, but back then, the construction industry was dominated by men, and angry shouts were always heard here and there. In my new surroundings, it was Mr. Charles Anderson, the president of the Anderson Group, who took care of me as I was flustered and trying to adjust. Upon learning about my situation, Mr. Anderson, with tears in his eyes, vigorously patted my back in encouragement. "Young men like you, James, are the reason I run this company. Don't hesitate to ask for anything," he declared. True to his word, Mr. Anderson ensured I received on-the-job training while also making time for my studies. Consequently, I spent my mornings working on-site and my evenings studying at Mr. Anderson's home. Mr. Anderson had a lovely 3-year-old daughter. Her name is Sophia, who quickly grew fond of my frequent visits and would eagerly greet me at the door. "Sophia seems to have taken a real liking to you, James. Even when I'm around, she heads straight to you," Mr. Anderson would say, making me feel somewhat embarrassed. While gaining on-site experience, I also began to handle computer-based tasks such as calculations and designs. Apparently, I was better suited for the latter and gradually began to focus on administrative work. 4 years into my job, I graduated from a high school with a correspondence course. I had been contemplating continuing my work at the company when Mr. Anderson encouraged me to pursue higher education. There's never a loss in acquiring education when you have the chance. Don't worry about the company. We'd be grateful to have you return with even more knowledge. Thus I went on to study architecture at a prestigious university with the savings I'd made in salary. Sharing my acceptance news with my mother, she teared up with joy, saying, "You've worked so hard, balancing work and studies. You've really done well." Her happiness made me emotional too. At the university, I learned from renowned professors, made friends and acquaintances within the architectural field, and enjoyed fulfilling days. After graduating, I returned to Anderson Group, eventually taking on significant management roles in the company as I crossed into my 30s. My promotion was celebrated by my former senior colleagues at the company. Someone with hands-on site experience leading them significantly improved work efficiency. Thinking from both a managerial and an on-site perspective allowed us to make our operations safer and more efficient. As a result, Anderson Group's performance soared, and in recent years, the company has seen significant growth. My alma mater occasionally invited me to lecture on architecture, enhancing my local reputation and attracting a steady stream of young job applicants, contributing to the company's continued growth. Meanwhile, Mr. Anderson's daughter, Sophia, grew into a beautiful woman. Even I, typically slow to notice such things, noticed that Sophia seemed to have a genuine fondness for me. One day, Mr. Anderson invited me for a drink after work and abruptly asked, "So, James, have you got someone special in your heart?" "No, I'm enjoying my work right now and haven't really had the chance to meet any women." In response to my casual reply, Mr. Anderson looked at me seriously. "What do you think of Sophia? You already know. She really wants to marry you. I can trust you with my sweet daughter." Though I had sensed her affection, having it explicitly stated made me feel both embarrassed and elated. The next day, I dressed in my best suit and visited Mr. Anderson's home. With a bouquet of roses in hand, I declared to Sophia, "Sophia, I promise to make you happy. Please marry me." Nervously, I had intended to ask her out, but I ended up proposing instead. Nevertheless, Sophia blushed with happiness and said, "Yes, I'd be delighted to if you'll have me," and we were married a year later. Sophia took my last name, and we've been living a happy married life. 30 years after graduating from junior high and entering the workforce, I turned 45. It was a fitting milestone for me to become the second president of the company. Now, as my father-in-law, Mr. Anderson, taught me the ropes of being a president, my days became busier and more fulfilling than ever. Before I knew it, Anderson Group had grown into a regional powerhouse with 7,500 employees. Amidst this, the company was invited to play a central role in a major regional development project. With many related companies involved, a networking reception was organized in a hotel's grand hall to foster connections. On the day of the reception, the venue, set up as a buffet-style party, was bursting with the enthusiasm and ambition of those in the construction industry. This time, family attendance was encouraged, so the presence of construction company presidents' spouses and children added to the ambience. Sophia mentioned she would join later, so I waited for her arrival at the entrance, looking out onto the street. That's when a man stopped in front of me. His face seemed familiar, and as he approached and scrutinized me, he broke into a wide smile. "Hey, aren't you James? Long time no see. It's me, Mike." It was Mike, the one who had treated me as a rival back in middle school. "It's been a while. Surprised you recognized me." "I'm a sales director now. Beating my peers requires at least remembering names." Mike smirked, crossing his arms and staring at me. "I heard you became a carpenter. Are you involved in this project? You don't look sunburned, though. Got fired from carpentry. He probably assumed I was still working on site due to my initial job. It seemed Mike couldn't grasp that people's jobs and positions change over time. Wanting to feel superior by comparing himself to me, just like in middle school. Mike continued scrutinizing me, but then seemed to find a new angle to attack from. Attending alone, aren't you? You're still not married. My beautiful wife is an executive secretary who has global experience. Not even out of high school. You wouldn't even get a chance to meet women. Reuniting after 30 years only to be mocked by Mike indicated his mindset hadn't evolved since middle school. While I understood his desire to boast about his wonderful wife and success, it wasn't appropriate for this setting. Mike went on boasting, but I was growing increasingly uncomfortable. Then, I heard a car horn and turned to look at the road. James, I'm sorry to keep you waited. Sophia, glad you could make it. In front of a lineup of 10 luxury cars. Sophia's arrival brought a smile to my face. Thanks for coming today. Are the others in the cars behind your father and his colleagues? Yes, Dad wanted to give the younger members of the group a chance to learn too. As Sophia and I chatted amiably, well-built young employees began stepping out of the luxury cars. Dressed in dark suits, their presence was impressive. And their muscular builds, honed by physical labor, were apparent even through their suits as they greeted me. Witnessing this, Mike staggered back in shock, then looked incredulously between Sophia and me. What? You're married, and to someone from the group? Yeah, she's my wonderful wife. Thanks to her, I'm leading a very happy life. I replied honestly, without feeling the need to hide anything. Our young and well-built employees gradually made their way into the hotel hall. At that moment, a woman dressed in a dark navy suit approached us. Mike greeted her with a relieved expression. You're late. It seemed she was the wife Mike had boasted about, who has global experience. Being a secretary, she appeared in a simple outfit for today's event. This is my wife, Madison. She is beautiful and works as an executive secretary. She used to live in Paris and Barcelona, so she speaks French and Spanish. Isn't that great? Mike boasted as if her achievements were his own. After a brief glance at him, I greeted Madison. Though undoubtedly beautiful, her often forlorn expression caught my attention. Noticing me, Madison's demeanor shifted to a more formal one as she quickly greeted me. Thank you for your support. I appreciate your consideration the other day. It's no problem at all. It must have been tough for you since then. Overhearing our exchange, Mike looked at me quizzically. Madison's an executive secretary at a trading company, right? Why are you, just a carpenter, speaking so familiarly with her? What are you talking about? This is Mr. Carter, the president of Anderson Group, a leading corporation in our state. He generously forgave our company for a delivery mishap recently. Madison corrected him. Indeed, Madison was the secretary to the director of one of Anderson Group's business partners. Not quite the high-level executive assistant Mike portrayed her. As faced with the truth, Mike stood agape, stunned. After all, Anderson Group was central to the current project. It was almost absurd that Mike, involved in a regional development plan, didn't recognize my name. However, unwilling to accept the reality, Mike shook his head in disbelief before raising his voice again. Stop lying. I don't know how you deceived my Madison, but it's shameful to boast and lie even though you're poor. I was about to retort when Madison quickly apologized. I'm sorry for my husband's rudeness. Despite the opportunity you gave us at work recently, we've caused you discomfort today. It's fine. Work and personal life are separate, after all. Mike's expression darkened as our conversation continued. His pride was likely hurt, seeing his wife, whom he had boasted about, apologizing to me, whom he had looked down upon. What's this joke? There's no way a middle school graduate like you could be the president of the renowned Anderson Group. James is my husband, and there's no mistake that he's the president of Anderson Group." At that moment, Sophia, who had been listening in, spoke up. She began addressing Mike and Madison with a calm yet dignified smile. "James joined Anderson Group when I was just 3 years old. I've always known I wanted to be with him, and we got married as soon as I turned 18. What a lovely story. To be dedicated to your husband like that from such a young age, it must have been a fateful encounter." Flattered, I couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. "We were late today because I was putting our daughter to bed." "How old is your child?" Madison asked, her gaze drifting enviously towards Sophia's belly, which was noticeably rounded with our second child. "She's 3. We took our time to enjoy life as a couple before having her, so she's still quite young." Madison bit her lip in frustration as she listened to Sophia's innocent words. "I've always wanted children too, but with both of us working, and my husband's expensive car hobby, we can't afford it." "Don't blame it all on me. You spend plenty too. Look at James's wife. She may dress simply, but she's much more beautiful than you with all your finery," Mike retorted, pointing out Madison's branded accessories and bags. Though Madison was adorned in brand-name items, her gaze lingered on Sophia's attire. Sophia, preferring elegant fashion, might seem understated at first glance, but she actually collected rare, high-value pieces she genuinely liked, likely making her attire more expensive. The realization that she had given up on children for financial reasons, only to be faced with someone who seemingly had it all, must have been painful for Madison. Moreover, while men can father children at an older age with lesser physical consequences, women face significant physical burdens, adding to Madison's distress. As I pondered their situation, Mike, looking displeased, grabbed my arm. "Look, running into you here must be fate. Let's do business with my company. I upset a major client last month. We're old acquaintances, right?" I was at a loss for words to Mike's utterly one-sided argument. Even after all these years, he still looked down on me until he knew I was the president, and then he suddenly changed his tune. "We worked hard studying together back in middle school, didn't we? Let's continue to get along." I wonder what Mike remembers from our middle school days. I still haven't forgotten his words. "You think you can just go to high school for 4 years without any money? I'm not a philanthropist who's kind to just anyone, and to be honest, I'd rather not have Mike in my sight. I'm sorry, but I have to decline. I don't think we can have a pleasant business relationship." "What? Why not?" Mike must not have expected to be turned down. His eyes widened in surprise, and he confronted me aggressively. "Come on, trade with me. My position at the company is really on the line here. My sales performance is down, and I'm not doing well with new ventures. At this rate, I might get demoted. I can help you there. Isn't that a reflection of your abilities? Who would willingly do business with someone whose performance is declining and is on the verge of demotion?" Not just Mike was taken aback by my words. Madison, who had been listening in, hastily pleaded, "Please let me also ask you. He could be fired, not just demoted. In fact, he has been messing around with a female subordinate and is being pursued by the company. He really can't afford to make any more mistakes." "Is that what you want, Madison?" When I asked her quietly, Madison could only respond with a surprised "what?" as her eyes widened. "I've talked with you a few times at work, so I feel I have some understanding of your character. In truth, you can forgive Mike for what he did, can you?" "Well..." Madison muttered a word and then fell silent, looking down. Madison's stern and silent expression is probably a far cry from her usual one. Seeing his wife motionless, Mike panicked and pressed her. "What do you mean? You're my wife. You should always be on my side, right?" Leaving Mike to his ranting, I prompted Sophia to move into the grand hall with me. The reception ended successfully that day, but we never saw Mike or Madison again. That was the last time I saw Mike. What follows is what I heard from acquaintances at our trading partners. Following that reception, the large-scale development project for regional promotion progressed smoothly with various companies. But Mike's company was not among them. The lack of an attractive proposal was the main reason. However, it's rumored that Mike's bad behavior, which had become widely known, was also a factor in their reluctance to engage in business. Considering the effect on the company's future, the executives decided to transfer Mike from sales. He was moved to a less significant department, essentially being put on standby for voluntary resignation. It seems pitiful to hear that much, but in fact, it seems that the situation was one of leniency, that he was not reprimanded. This is because it was discovered that Mike was actually demanding bribes from his subcontractors. When his salary didn't increase as expected due to declining performance, he started selling company client lists to dubious firms in exchange for cash and lavish entertainment. As these facts came to light, and female employees he had harassed began to consider legal action, Mike finally surrendered. Taking responsibility for his actions, he resigned voluntarily. He tried to find work in other companies, but his reputation had already spread throughout the industry, leading to rejections everywhere. Having no choice, he managed to get hired as a temporary worker by a subcontractor, but his pride in having always been on a winning side in his life up to that point did not leave him until the end. It led to his resignation after failing to tolerate being instructed by younger supervisors. He then drifted through various part-time jobs, barely making ends meet. Meanwhile, Madison, having grown tired of Mike, decided to divorce him early on, and threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. Though they were not blessed with children, she paid a visit to a child welfare facility with a friend. It led her to volunteer and engage in support activities for children. Helping as many children as possible find their desired paths in life made her feel her life had meaning. "I'm truly grateful to you, Mr. Carter. You taught me that there's more to life than just marriage to Mike and gave me the opportunity to change my life," Madison said when we met again after a long time. She had stopped her flashy dressing and opted for a simple, elegant style instead. It seems that men with sincere intentions are also drawn to her. Given her diligence and capability, she can undoubtedly carve out a fulfilling life for herself from here on. As for us, Sophia safely gave birth to our second child, a son, thereafter. As a family of 4, we cherish each other and live happily every day. Having experienced poverty in my childhood, I'm determined not to let my children go through the same hardships. Therefore, I'm even more devoted to my work than ever, striving daily to stabilize the company. If I ever seem to be heading in a dangerous direction, I'm sure Sophia, always by my side, will caution me. For the sake of my family and employees, I'm committed to managing Anderson Group with care. The regional development project has progressed smoothly, and now there's a large park in front of the station. As I watch my children play in the park, Sophia and I contemplate the future of our town together. The future of our children represents the future of our country. I want to do everything within our power to pass on a better world to our children. Watching our kids run around energetically, I once again reflect on our hopes for the future.